Alright guys, the time has finally come at last. Welcome to our first episode of Factions of Golarion. It seems pretty appropriate today that our very first video in this series is the very most meta of the series. Mr. Bloodade Shingle requests the Pathfinder Society. If you have any requests for any factions you'd like to see a little more detailed in lore, a little more detailed in playability, a little more detailed in flavor, throw them in the comments, ding the bell, so you don't, miss out on all this sweet content. And today, this episode of Factions of Golarion was brought to you in part by Joseph Citadino. Thanks for your help as always, my friend. Now, let's hit it. So on Golarion, the Pathfinder Society is a globe-spanning organization based out of the city of Absalom. Their members consist primarily of Pathfinders, adventurers who travel throughout the planet, usually inconspicuously, exploring, delving, and otherwise experiencing the lesser-seen parts of the world. They send journals documenting their travels back to their venture captains, who also assign them new missions and suggest new places to explore. The Society itself generally takes a hands-off approach with its agents, letting them pursue their own leads and choosing their own priorities. They're only really expected to explore the mysteries of the multiverse, report what they find, and cooperate with one another in order to assure the success of the first two duties. Or, if you ask the literal Pathfinder Society, explore, report, cooperate. God, there's never been a video I've put out on this channel that's more meta than talking about the Pathfinder Society, because the Pathfinder Society is, literally a thing. The Pathfinder Society role-playing guild on planet Earth is part of Paizo's organized play program, where, you show up at a con, show up at your LGS, etc., and play organized adventures with an organized, structured list of what's legal or illegal. It's a very structured, organized, grab-and-go kind of experience. But anyway, back to the lore. The Pathfinder Society was founded in 4307 in Absalom by a group of adventurers as a means to share stories and resources. 10 years later, a sage whose name has been lost to history offered to publish the best of the Society's stories in book form. The first edition of the Pathfinder Chronicles became wildly successful and began the Society's tradition of publishing the best of its members' exploits, aka a product line released by Paizo. Now, of course, the Pathfinder Society takes all comers, members of all backgrounds, creeds, and morals, as long as you're willing to cooperate, explore, and report. Yeah, I know I got that backwards, but emphasis cooperate on this one. You're let in, but not one, not two, not three, but 4 prestige classes exist for those of us who want to fully play up the notion of the Pathfinder, those being the Pathfinder Chronicler, Delver, Field Agent, and Savant. Their skills vary. Lots of bardic performance, lots of taking 10 on checks. Some of them are a little more magic flavored. Some, namely the Field Agent, get huntery, roguey things, but playing an actual Pathfinder in Pathfinder, God, there are so many levels of meta here, are basically to play the quintessential adventurer, the explorer, the guy who wants to go to the bottom of the dungeon, not to save the world, not to prevent the zombie apocalypse, but literally just to see what's down there. And though I think the adventurer trope is maybe not necessarily played out, but I've never really been a fan of it, it definitely exists, it definitely has its place, and organized play is kind of that place. I've never been a part of PFS before. I've only lived in a city for 7 months, and I just don't really have the time to go drop in at my LGS. But again, this is kind of the most meta thing I've ever seen in my whole life. And the trope of we're going here and exploring a place works really good for what is essentially a pickup group. Short of you and all your friends entering a PFS scenario at once, you have no idea what the party's going to be, you don't know what the story is going to be like, so it's a pretty simple, tried and true, here we are, let's go explore thing, and if we murder hobo along the way, so much the better, as long as we explore, report, cooperate. But bringing this into a, dare I say, normal game, a homebrew game, a game at somebody's house or that's not at organized play, requires a little more and also a little less finagling. Someone who seeks to wander the world is going to be exposed to, all the good and bad things the world has to offer, So a Pathfinder brought into your game who sees the overwhelming big bad thing that's going to happen or gets caught up in a civil war or whatever's going on in your game certainly has a place. Someone's got to write it down, right? They're essentially the super bard, the historian, the person who's going to put this down for all of time, for all of your setting to see, or in other words, they're the ones taking the notes, I guess. Anyway, what do you guys think about the Pathfinder Society as far as the lore goes? Have we played any of the Pathfinder Society prestige classes outside of PFS? Do we like PFS? And how would you bring a member of this guild into your game? Let me know in the comments. Conversation will be kept rolling as always. And thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, ding that bell, because we're doing basically the opposite of Free to Explore next week on Factions of Golarion. We'll revisit a faction we've talked about on the channel, a faction we've fought on the channel, probably one of the most iconic factions of Golarion. Next Friday, it's the Hell Knights. See you then.